Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Well, typing experiences have been on my mind of recent late. Maybe it's the effect of being home a lot and just scrolling through Amazon and seeing what's there, Steve. But you do recall the old school mechanical keyboards, and what's old is new and all that sort of stuff in today's world. And mechanical keyboards have made a comeback.
That's it. We were brought up on them. Clickety, clickety, clack, clack.
Absolutely. And so I couldn't help myself. I had to get one of these things to test it out. Of course, I did a lot of research to pick out the best one for the Mac use. So I've got the I think it's if you can see it there, the old Keychron K2 version 2 with you can actually see the
look at the size of those keys.
It's very clickety clack, and it's actually quite a good pleasure to type on, but very loud, of course. But the key travel's excellent. But I'm finding it quite interesting in I guess today's sort of tech setup that these sort of things have popped up again. This one was apparently crowd-funded. It's like the community willed it into existence kind of thing. There's variations of that keyboard, so they make a couple of different models, etc. I picked this one because it seemed to be the sort of like the generic universal one that is generally recommended, etc. And I've been really happy with it so far with using it. But it is interesting how it's this fusion of the old school with new tech, because obviously old school mechanical keyboards didn't have Bluetooth in them or fancy lighting, or it comes with like a feature, like 10 different backlighting features on it, which I've summarily switched off because I'm never going to use. But it's interesting that they've thrown that in, and it's like taking something from the old world that maybe did have that purpose and use, especially if you're a typist, and infuse it with the new technology, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's great to see any sort of revival. It brings sweet memories back. I've still got mechanical keyboards, USB, cables between them and the computer that I find much better to type on. But it's really interesting to hear the features they've got now. I mean, I'm not really sure that the fact that keyboards are normally pretty close to your computer or laptop anyway. I'm not sure why we need wireless, but it certainly is neater on the desk, and to have the benefit now of actually having a mechanical keyboard, which for people who type a lot, and of course, you write a lot of scripts and a lot of documents in general, it's a fantastic feel.
Yeah, highly recommend it. And of course, this is not an ad or anything, but I did want to highlight the fact that, these sorts of things are really good, and there are actually plenty of options out there to choose from. So lots of fun, and I'm going to type away as we go along. All right, let's flip over to something different. So, we can breathe a sigh of relief that NASA downgraded a threat of a giant asteroid collision in the next century. Obviously something that they keep an eye on, asteroids that, are doing laps around the Earth, and, maybe some are coming a little bit too close. And there was one particular one that a 340 meter long space rock that was apparently going to come pretty close in 2029 and 2036, but they were able to rule that out, and then apparently it was going to potentially hit in 2068. But now they've kind of scratched that off the list. And I guess it's just kind of interesting from the perspective of I guess there's a team out there that their whole job is to see if something's gonna whack this planet in the side and potentially cause some devastation, Hollywood style. I guess on a more serious note, I guess it's worth considering and probably advisable to to monitor these things, because it is possible that we could get hit by an asteroid.
Well, it's happened in the past, and we know it will happen at some time in the future. I guess the week before it happens next time, we'll be watching reruns of Armageddon and Deep Impact, and hoping that whoever we're sending out to the asteroid to put nuclear charge on is successful. But it's good to see that we've got 100 years or so to, I guess, equip our space teams to do it. I think, though, that what we've seen in the last few years anyway is this is of the known asteroids or known space objects, but there's always one we haven't seen that is probably the one that's going to get us.
Do you reckon there's been a lot of, I guess this is speculation, but do you reckon there's been a lot of work done to prepare for that eventuality, whether it's like an urgent one that they just spot and they haven't got much time to react, or one that they know that's, coming in like 3 decades time or whatever?
I'd be reasonably sure that they have a plan, but there's no way of really practicing it, is there? I mean, but we have rockets now. We have private rockets. We have, government-based agencies. I think that, getting to, and we've shown actually with a number of missions, particularly to the asteroid belt, that we can get to any asteroid in its orbit, especially if it's coming straight towards us. So I guess there's no question we could get to one on its way and intercept it. And I guess there's no question we couldn't do what they do in Armageddon, or Deep Impact for that matter. So there you go. I don't know how much preparation's been given, but it's certainly more than feasible that that would be the sort of thing that we would do. Either that, or what's the idea? We stick a giant booster rocket to the side of it and push it out of the way. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I guess it would be a complicated thing to work out, and there'd be a lot to, sort of determine what's the asteroid's composed of, etc., to get the, to get the right response. Because it can be tempting to think you just shoot something at it and it blows up, but that it may not be quite as simple as that.
I think you could probably push it out of the way with a big Falcon rocket.
Absolutely. Maybe one day we'll see it. Who knows? All right, we'll switch gears completely again. Coronavirus again, because we haven't talked about that enough in the past year. Why we're bringing this back up again is this story on CNN that it caught my attention for a couple of different reasons, which we'll get to. We'll talk about the actual specifics itself, but also am sort of curious how it ended up on CNN in the first place. So the CNN was doing a piece where they've interviewed a whole bunch of people that have been sort of experts in America related to the pandemic, etc. So Dr. Birx, Fauci, etc., etc. The one that sort of stood out was Dr. Robert Redfield, who they played a clip of, who basically was saying that it was his opinion. He was very he was very specific about saying it was his opinion and in his experience that the coronavirus started in a lab and probably escaped from there. And he cited the reasoning for that is that his experience as a virologist was that it had too many characteristics out of the box to have just emerged from basically a jump from an animal host to a human host. It would have had to have stayed in a human host for longer to develop the transmissible characteristics that it had. At least that's essentially what he was getting across. So this isn't new. The lab theory, I guess, has been around for as long as the pandemic's been around. And I guess a lot of it has got to do with the fact that it's still shrouded in mystery exactly how this whole thing started. I guess it's just, I guess, bringing in what I was just mentioning then about CNN and them broadcasting this at this point is that I don't know if that, again, I'm going to use this term loosely because, them being mainstream media, I don't know if they've really actually broadcast this sort of thing before during the actual pandemic in such a big way, and it makes me wonder why they're doing it now. So there's a whole lot to unpack there, I guess. There's a whole lot to talk about there.
Well, yeah, I mean, this goes all the way to the whole concept of what is news in the modern age. I mean, is it a story that you think's going to basically get a lot of clicks or a lot of attention and a lot of sharing with your masthead on it? probably. News has changed so much in the digital age that we can no longer be sure of what's news and what isn't. That's not to say that this isn't news or the theory or opinion isn't valid, but, the reasons that we see things now on mainstream news or niche news channels is because people want us to see it. And the reasons for that come down to sort of popularity, I think, or interest more than the original intention of journalism, which was in the public interest. So, it's quite an interesting theory. There's certainly, some basis for it, but it's also borderline conspiracy because you can't prove it to be true. And that's what every good conspiracy theory is based on. Something that seems likely, something that seems plausible, but there's no way that we're going to be able to tell for sure.
And that makes me wonder why they've, chosen to do this at this time, particularly as, the CNN in particular has been trying to, fight against fake news, as they call it. But at the same time, it just, I'm not passing judgment there as to whether they're actually doing that or not, but that's their claim. And I'm not saying specifically that Redfield's opinion is fake news either, because he did say it was his opinion. He didn't say that he wasn't trying to pass it off as fact like a lot of others might have done. But I just find it curious that with all the swirling around of everything that's spoken about in the news, etc., and how all these things sort of play out and all of that, I don't know if it's helpful to put that sort of thing out there when, like you said, there's nothing to prove it at this point.
I guess the thing that's interesting in this case is that the investigation that's occurred really hasn't been able to shed any light for whatever reason on the origins, except that we know where it started. And that's, obviously something happened in that geographical region which, led to the virus, I guess, effectively becoming strong enough to move out. Redfield's opinion is that, the fact that it was able to infect enough people to sort of propagate itself, shows it has certain characteristics. But outside of that, we don't know how or why. And I think this is one of those things when you have an absence from a report, an official report that doesn't really give you any answers, then I guess it's fair to allow people like Redfield, who's, obviously an expert, to voice theirs.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I guess just to tie it off, though, it would obviously be helpful to know how it started so that, you could get a sense of, okay, this is how it started, so we could maybe put in some preventative measures, I guess, for the future, if that is even possible. But at the end of the day, is it by this point with so many people infected, so much of a significant impact having occurred on the planet, is it more of a moot point now that whether or not we know it, because the emphasis is really on about containing it and stopping further spread of the infection?
I'm cynical, Ben. I'd just say it's got to do with litigation, but who knows? I mean, somebody's going to have to pay.
Yeah.
So isn't that what this is really about?
So we got to find someone to blame for it to get out of control the way it did.
Well, I'm not saying that, but that could be one motivation. I mean, personally, I think there's no shortage of virologists who understand virology. I mean, that's their job. We know how viruses move between animals and humans quite well, and we know, exactly as Redfield says, what sort of characteristics, et cetera, that a virus needs to thrive. And, the only reason you would want to know exactly how a virus came into existence is these days is one, there's obviously a scientific question, but also, like I say, it seems to me to be more about litigation and liability.
Well, I mean, it did cost a little bit, didn't it?
That's exactly what I mean.
All right, we might wrap it up there. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. Part of me was like, is kind of hoping, or was kind of yearning for a desire to return to that sort of old school journalism that would just focus on, where, the actual, bring us the news kind of thing. And I just feel like even if any of that was, news, it's so swallowed by so much other noise and hysteria and all that you almost can't listen to any of it until something absolutely concretely definitive is actually brought out there with evidence.
That's right. The news is there is no news on this. And so, in any vacuum, people always step in to fill it up.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, our RSS feeds, and watch us on any and all of your devices. And we greatly appreciate your visits to our website. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.